Newcastle United beat West Ham United 3-1 on Sunday evening. Spurs now need just 1 point from the next two Premier League games to keep Premier League status for the 26-27 campaign. Opta have given Spurs just a 6% chance of relegation. West Ham a 94% chance of relegation. Now, Toby Alderweireld has been talking about Spurs. He said Spurs should be a mid-table team, not fighting relegation. Talking about captain Romero, he said he is an unbelievable player, but he needs to be calm. And he also stated that Pochettino wants to return to Tottenham one day to finish the job. Hi everyone, hope you're well. Chris Cowlin here. This is another episode of Tottenham News where I'll be going for all of the latest Spurs news, rumours and reports. If you're watching on YouTube, please do hit that subscribe button, like, share and comment below. And if you're listening to this on an audio platform, please do hit that follow button and leave a review if you can. So let's start by talking about Sunday's results in the Premier League. 6 games took place on Sunday. Manchester United beat Nottingham Forest 3-2. Brentford and Crystal Palace, that one ended 2-2 at the G-Tech. Now, Everton lost 3-1 at home against Sunderland. Leeds beat Brighton 1-0. Wolves 1-1 against Fulham. And in the late kickoff, Newcastle United beat West Ham United 3-1 at St James's Park. Now, on Monday evening, Arsenal host Burnley, and on Tuesday, Bournemouth host Manchester City, and also Chelsea play Spurs. Now, all Tottenham need is 1 point to secure Premier League status, because after West Ham lost at Newcastle on Sunday, they remain in the bottom 3. They are 2 points behind Tottenham, and they have 1 game to play. Spurs have 2 games to play. Spurs have a -9 goal difference. West Ham have a -22 goal difference. The Spurs need just 1 point to keep Premier League status. So a draw at Chelsea will keep Tottenham in the Premier League for the 26-27 season. If Spurs lose the game at Chelsea, then it will go down to the final day of the season. Spurs will still require 1 point for Premier League status against Everton at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Sunday. For West Ham's point of view, West Ham would need to win the game to stay in the Premier League, but they would also need Spurs to lose the game. West Ham, of course, face Leeds United at the London Stadium on Sunday. Now, after West Ham United lost 3-1 at St James's Park against Newcastle on Sunday evening, the chances of relegation, according to Opta, Tottenham Hotspur just 6%. We have 2 games remaining, Chelsea away and Everton at home. And West Ham, 94%. They have 1 game left, Leeds United at home. After West Ham United lost 3-1 away at Newcastle in the Premier League, and of course ahead of Tottenham's game away at Chelsea on Tuesday, a couple of Spurs players took to Instagram. Bissouma putting out 3 emojis, a white love heart, fingers crossed emoji and a praying emoji. And midfielder Palhinha said, "See us at the London derby, COYS." Former Tottenham Hotspur defender Toby Alderweireld has been talking to the Times newspaper all about Spurs. On the current squad, he said this Spurs squad should be mid-table, not fighting for relegation. Now, Toby Alderweireld also spoke out about captain Christian Romero. He said, "I think he's an unbelievable player in moments. For example, with the red cards, you don't help your team with red cards. When your team needs you, you need to be the captain steering the ship, not putting it in more trouble. He is a very good player, but he should have done better in some situations. For me, centre-backs are players that you need to count on to be flawless, not crazy. Win your battles, be secure. That is the number one thing. Long balls, passes between the lines, of course, that is a plus, but the basic is to be secure. A captain has to be aware not to, and I don't say he is causing trouble, but not to be a risk to himself. I call them trustful leaders. You need to be a calm person. Now, Toby Alderweireld has also been talking about former boss Mauricio Pochettino, and he was asked by the Times newspaper, will he return to Spurs in the future? Toby Alderweireld said, for sure he will go back to Tottenham one day. He wants it, and the fans want it. I don't know the board, but I think when the manager and the fans want it, it will happen. He wants to come back to finish the job. Now, it was announced on Sunday by BBC Sport that Tottenham Hotspur striker Mason Melia has received his first senior call-up to the Republic of Ireland squad for their upcoming friendlies against Qatar and Canada. Now, Tottenham Hotspur boss Roberto De Zerbi will be facing the media in his pre-match press conference at Hotspur Way on Monday, ahead of Tuesday's game, which of course takes place at Stamford Bridge, 8:15pm kickoff. Now, my thoughts on everything in this episode. Yes, it's a short one, but it is an important update because Newcastle United, of course, beat West Ham United 3-1 at St James's Park on Sunday evening, and it is a huge result for Tottenham Hotspur because it now means that we only need 1 point. 1 point from our next two games, 1 point from the last two games of the season. We face Chelsea on Tuesday. Of course, they have just appointed Xabi Alonso. He will not be in the dugout. He will be taking the job from the 1st of July. I've seen many reports stating that Xabi Alonso will be in the stands. So, of course, the Chelsea team, the Chelsea squad will want to put a shift in. They are playing for their futures at the football club under their new manager. But you know, Spurs are in a really good position now, and I say really good. And when I say really good, I mean, you know, we have been in terrible positions over these last couple of months, and at one point it did look like Spurs were going to go down, and Spurs really are in the driving seat now, but we still need to get the job done. We can't get carried away yet. We need 1 point from our remaining two Premier League games, Chelsea away on Tuesday, and then followed by Everton at home on Sunday, the final day of the season. And of course, West Ham only have one game left, and that is Leeds United at home at the London Stadium, also on Sunday. Spurs need to go to Stamford Bridge and get a point. And I tell you what, the fans would really enjoy getting Premier League status at Chelsea, one of our biggest rivals. Now, Tottenham just need to get this job done. And I tell you what I'm going to say now is, you know, big respect, and let's give credit to Roberto De Zerbi. You know, before Roberto De Zerbi come in, I think most of us, if not all of us, were stating that Spurs, you know, were never going to pick up any points. We couldn't see where the next point was coming from. And, you know, Spurs were not in a good place, particularly, you know, the back end of Thomas Frank and the whole time under Igor Tudor. I know we got that 1-1 draw away at Liverpool, and a lot of people thought that was a turning point, but you know, it was a bit of a disaster under Igor Tudor. And you know, when Roberto De Zerbi came in, he brought positivity, he brought confidence, and he instilled confidence and belief into this playing group, and this has been the real difference. And I think Roberto De Zerbi really does need a lot of credit. And you know, we grinded out that win away at Wolves. That wasn't a pretty game at all. Palhinha scored. We got the 3 points. It was our first win in 118 days. And I tell you what, that was a turning point, because in the last 4 games, 2 wins, 2 draws. And you could argue that Brighton game at home at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, that should have been a win. But we have been a different team under Roberto De Zerbi, and he has been extremely positive. And when you think back to what Thomas Frank used to say, and when you think especially what Igor Tudor had to say when he came in, you know, his second and third press conferences, he just said how bad everything was, how bad the attack was, how bad the midfield was, how bad the defence was. Roberto De Zerbi, completely different in his approach to, you know, being named Tottenham Hotspur manager and trying to win points for this football club. And that's exactly what he has done. Without Roberto De Zerbi, I tell you what, Spurs would have been down by now mathematically. And it is down to him why we have this big opportunity, this big chance, 1 point from the remaining 2 games. Am I confident of staying in the Premier League? Yes, I do feel confident because Roberto De Zerbi is here guiding this team, this squad. So we need to go to Chelsea. We need to get a point. We need to go to Chelsea and avoid defeat. And then we will keep Premier League status for next season. And this is exactly what we want. And I put out a short episode earlier, and I'll repeat myself for the people that haven't seen it or haven't listened to it. But I said, is this the time to celebrate? If Spurs get Premier League status for next season, should we be celebrating? I don't feel like I should be celebrating because we should never be in this position in the first place. And this isn't me being arrogant as a Spurs fan. When you have a stadium like we do, when you have the training facilities like we do, when, we've been told on multiple occasions that we should be fighting on all fronts. Ange Postecoglou won us a Europa League. Then he got the sack because the board, including Daniel Levy, said, we want to be fighting on all fronts, and 17th, finishing 17th in the Premier League table was unacceptable. And this is exactly where Spurs are now. What has changed in terms of league position? I think that a number of things need to be looked at in the summer. I think that Roberto De Zerbi will try to improve a lot of things in the summer if Spurs are in the Premier League for next season. This is highly important to the football club. I think it's highly important to him. It's highly important to all of us fans as well. And that's why I say that De Zerbi needs a lot of credit. But what I would say is you'd have to ask the questions, why on earth Spurs are in this position again? Recruitment hasn't been good enough. Decision-making hasn't been good enough. And, vast investment and really good decisions need to be made in the summer. And I'll use that word again, a word that I use quite often when I'm talking about summer transfer windows: ambition. Be ambitious in this window. We finished 17th last year. If we finish 17th again this year, there has been absolutely no progress. And it has been a disaster of a season, if I'm completely honest. And, it isn't the time to celebrate. It is the time to reflect on why these things have gone terribly wrong. And Spurs must improve for the future. We must improve for next season. I think it's a terrible season anyway if Spurs haven't got European football for next season, which we don't. And, to be in this relegation fight, it has been really tough, for all of us fans, no matter how we support the football club, whether you live on the doorstep, whether you go to home games, away games, whatever you do, whether you live in a different country, whether you go to the ground, once in a while, or whether you watch it on TV every week, no matter how people support the club, it has been really tough for everyone, all around the world. And we should never, ever be in this position. And I really do not want to be in this position again, talking about relegation and worried about relegation and having sleepless nights thinking about us going down to the Championship. But with all of that said, there is still work to do, a lot of work to do. Roberto De Zerbi has to guide this football team, to at least one more point, and then we will be in the Premier League for next season. And then, on the pitch, I think that, good times are ahead under Roberto De Zerbi because I do really like him. I love the way that he has instilled confidence and belief into this squad, as I've said. And I think that, things could be really good under him if we have, multiple really good, decent transfer windows, with the football that he plays and with the passion that he has. I absolutely love it. Opta have given Spurs just a 6% chance of relegation. I've seen some posts, people saying, surely Spurs can't muck this up, when there's 2 games and we only need 1 point. I'm certainly hoping so, but we need to be professional about it. And we just need to go and get the job done at Chelsea. If I'm completely honest, I don't want this going to the last day of the season. If Spurs lost at Chelsea, it would be a bit of a disaster, and we would then be needing at least a draw at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Sunday. So I just hope that we can get the job done on Tuesday. Opta have given West Ham a 94% chance of relegation. And of course, fair play to West Ham. They were 13 points behind us in January, and they look dead and buried. And a lot of people, including a lot of West Ham fans, thought that they were dead and buried. They were already relegated, and Spurs would get out of it. But of course, there was that big point swing. And, Spurs really struggled to pick up points. West Ham went on a good run, but they have lost their last 3 Premier League games. So, that's why they're in the position they are. Now, lastly, talking about Toby Alderweireld, he said that Christian Romero is an unbelievable player, but he needs to be calm. I think I've spoken about this at length on previous episodes. Completely agree. It's going to be very interesting to see whether Christian Romero will play for Tottenham again, or whether the Sunderland away game was his last appearance in a Spurs shirt. From what I understand, he has wanted to remain at Tottenham. He's wanted to remain in London, even though he's having treatment on his current injury. And then, of course, he will go off to play at the World Cup. I understand that he's going to be fit and available for Argentina for their friendlies pre-World Cup. But, I think that I've thought this for the last couple of years. Unbelievable player, but yes, does need to be calm in certain moments. And too many yellows, too many reds, but I think he's an unbelievable player. Lionel Messi has come out and said that he is the best defender in the world. We need to keep hold of our best players, but sadly, I can't see Romero staying at Spurs beyond this season. It's going to be interesting to see what other players want to leave, depart the football club. And like I always say when we're talking about transfer windows as well, a big summer ahead. I want to see Spurs show ambition. Apparently, the football club want to change the wage structure going forward. They did this with Conor Gallagher in the January transfer window, but this does need to continue because we need the best players. The only thing that worries me is the fact that when you look at the past couple of years when we have seen a quality player leave, and I will name check the likes of Harry Kane and Heung-min Son, I could go on forever. There are a lot of players, in recent years that have left the football club. When we've got a replacement in, they have been more of a downgrade rather than an upgrade or, a player of equal quality. I know a lot of people will say, well, how can you upgrade on Harry Kane? You can't. That's a difficult one. But you get what I mean. Now, Toby Alderweireld saying that Spurs should be a mid-table team and not fighting relegation. I tell you what, we need to show ambition. I don't like the fact that a former player, and it is a very honest assessment, he has come out and said that we should be a mid-table team. I don't want to be a mid-table team. I want Spurs to be fighting at the very top. I want Spurs to be fighting in Europe every year, and I want Spurs to be fighting for the very top honours, i.e. the Premier League. So there is a lot to do because Spurs, it feels like at the moment, are a million miles away for competing with these clubs. And when you look at even the likes of Aston Villa, you look at Brighton, Bournemouth, Brentford, all of these teams and all of these squads have upped their game, all of these clubs. And, Spurs need to keep up and, Spurs need to do some unbelievable business this summer to be competing again at the very top because, I'll go on now to talk about Pochettino. Toby Alderweireld, of course, was a big part of Poch's team. He's come out and said that Poch wants to return to Tottenham one day to finish the job. I would like to see that happen one day. Pochettino, return to the football club. But at the moment, I feel very excited about Roberto De Zerbi. Like I said earlier, great that he came in, at this time because we could have been dead and buried. But Imagine if Roberto De Zerbi came in when Igor Tudor come in, would never have got to this. I think that Roberto De Zerbi would have picked up a lot more points and Spurs would have been mathematically okay a lot sooner. But like I've said, we can't get carried away. We can't get excited. We can't be celebrating. Not that I would anyway. We need to get the job done, job in hand, get this season over and done with, start afresh. Next year with hopefully, some really good players coming in the summer so we can actually fight on all fronts as promised. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching on YouTube, please do hit that subscribe button, like, share and comment below. And if you're listening to this on an audio platform, please do hit that follow button and leave a review if you can. Enjoy your week. Stay safe and well. I'll see you on the next one. Come on, you Spurs.